Good evening, I'm Jeff Koinange. Is Jeff Koinange live tonight? If it's Thursday, you know it's all about inspiration. And this day, February the 4th, has been dedicated to World Cancer Day. You may know someone who knows someone who's heard about someone who has cancer. You may have cancer. You may have a family member who has cancer. I tell you, it's one of the most debilitating diseases ever. And it's killing more and more people, not just in Kenya, but across Africa and the world. Tonight, we want to talk about a story of triumph, overcoming insurmountable odds. My guest was only 21 years old when she discovered she had cancer. Hodgkin's lymphoma, to be precise. She was in America, no family members, was given the horrific news, and all she could do is call her mother right away and tell her, come on over. Imagine that. Her mother flew over all the way, got there in time. She got into hospital, and her story, folks, is a story you want to hear over and over again. To cut a long story short, she was in and out of hospital for 6 months. And for the last 4 years, she's been what is known as remission. But the cancer could pop up any time. But she's not waiting for it. She's moving on. In fact, she's written a book, which I recommend all you people who know someone who has cancer to read. It's simply called Honest Words. Great book, easy to read, wonderfully written. In fact, let me just lift it up a bit so you can see it. There you go, Honest Words. And if I could just read the opening, it says, to all cancer victims and survivors around the world who remain silent, may this book encourage you to share your stories. Together, let our stories shine hope like the millions of stars in the sky. By the way, my guest has come back to Kenya, and for the last 2 years has been teaching at Strathmore University. She teaches communication. It's no wonder that she's come up with this book. She's 25 years old now, and she's talking to anybody and anyone about this disease that's devastated families and communities. My guest tonight for the next hour, her Twitter handle is @Liza Ngenye. @Liza Ngenye. Mine is @Koinange. Jeff, we're using the hashtag from the title of her book, Honest Words. Sit back, call a friend who knows a friend who has cancer and don't know how to respond or to react to it. Liza Ngenye. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome to the bench.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're going to give me a book right now. Let's do that. Let's get out the formalities out of the way,
okay.
right? Give me my book. Thank you. Thank you for a tiny little soft cover. It's all right. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a copy of mine. Hardcover. And since you're a communications professor...
Yeah, because I'm soft at heart and you're hard at heart.
I am, indeed.
There you go.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You're smart, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, my. Half my age and smart as ever. Thank you so much for the book. I appreciate it. Great book. My friend, your friend, relative probably, Lee Kenyotu,
yeah,
with the 2 T's. He told me about you.
Yes.
And I figured, on this day, let's not feel bad about ourselves. Because, World Cancer Day, so many people have died of cancer, so many people suffering from cancer. You have overcome this disease. You've overcome it. You fought it. So let's go back. You grew up in Kenya, right?
Yes.
And then went to school in America.
Yes.
And take the story from there. The day you felt like your throat was being choked. Go on.
Yes. So we'll start the story at 21. So when I turned 21, I had just started my master's degree in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University. Now, for the past 6 months, I started to experience symptoms like a cold. And I thought that I just had a cold all along. But this cold kept progressing and it wasn't getting any better. I got medication, I was given every kind of drug, but it still was not making the symptoms go away. Finally, about 6 months later, I woke up in the middle of the night, and as you described, I felt like I was being strangled, like someone was literally strangling my throat. I couldn't breathe. I knew this was it, like this is the end. So I called 911. The ambulance came to my apartment and they took me straight to the hospital. They did all the tests that they could. The diagnosis was, yes, you have cancer. You're starting chemotherapy right away.
But they didn't diagnose right away. They sent you home.
Yes.
They sent you home. And then the next day they called you and said, Miss Ngenye, or whatever they called you then,
Yeah.
you need to come over.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
Yes, I was scared because I really didn't know what it was. And when they called me over, they were like, now we need to do a biopsy, which is, well, after doing the test, they found there was a mass right next to my vocal cord. At this point, I could not be heard by anyone. I was inaudible completely. So I thought I lost my voice. And they're like, we're going to take a sample of this mass to see if it's cancerous or not. After they did that initial surgery, they found, yes, there is cancer. And because it was in the lymph node, it was diagnosed as lymphoma. And that's when we started the process.
You jumped a little bit because when they told you you had to go into surgery, the first thing you did was call your mom.
Yeah.
All the way in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah. I said, Mom, they're saying...
And you're probably whispering at this point. You're whispering because you can't speak.
Of course, yes. The doctors are saying that I have an issue. I don't know what it is. I have to go to surgery, like in the next 24 hours. Can you come? She got on a plane. 12 hours later, she was standing at my bedside in the hospital.
Oh my God. You're kidding me.
Yeah.
And then you went in, came out, and they told you...
They never did, actually, Jeff. That's very interesting. They never said the word cancer. They said, you have lymphoma, okay? Now we need to determine whether it's Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's, because lymphoma has 2 types. I didn't know what lymphoma was. I mean, I wasn't a medical student. I didn't know anything about medicine. And so then we went into the next procedure, which is the bone marrow biopsy, which I talk about in the book.
You do talk about it. It's very painful. By the way, we need to let our viewers know about how painful that bone marrow biopsy, what is it?
Yeah, biopsy.
They stick a needle all the way into your hip bone.
So you have a needle that's almost 2 feet long,
yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And they have to stick that all the way down the ridge of your hip bone to where the bone marrow is, which is in your bone.
Right.
Now the only way to get there is through layers and layers and layers of flesh and muscle and everything.
Which haven't been anesthetized.
The area has been anesthetized, but you're awake. You can feel everything, you can hear everything, you can hear the whole interaction. But of course, the further in the needle goes, the further away it is from the anesthesia.
Yes.
So you feel the pain. And then when they get to the ridge of the bone, they have to suck out a piece of that marrow to determine whether the cancer is in the marrow, which it would be diagnosed as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is much more difficult to cure versus Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Describe the pain for me, Liza.
I mean, it's excruciating. I can't even... I don't think it can be compared to anything ever. And I think the worst part of the pain is being awake and feeling the doctor literally like hammer in your skin, hammer in your muscle and all the way down to your body. And you're feeling that, you're awake, but you can't do anything about it.
And you said the first time they did that, they didn't get enough bone marrow.
Right, so they had to repeat the process again in order to do so.
In America?
Yeah.
Okay, and then they found enough.
Yeah.
And they went and did the tests?
Yes, and they found, yes, you have Hodgkin's, right? So Hodgkin's is cancer of the lymph nodes, but it's not the cancer that has entered the bone marrow, in which the treatment is different now. So all we do for Hodgkin's lymphoma is you go through 6 rounds of chemotherapy, which is about 6 months.
Which is what you did?
Which is what I did.
Chemo, proper chemo?
Yes, proper chemo.
Hair loss, the word?
You know, that's a different story altogether. Having cancer in itself, yes, you know, there's a certainty of, yes, I will die or not. But chemotherapy, going through that process over and over again, and by the way, to all viewers out there, chemotherapy is lethal. It's toxic. It's like putting something dangerous in your body. It's not something that's supposed to be in the body. And so you're basically killing these cancer cells, but along the process you also kill healthy and natural cells, which is why, again, many cancer patients going through chemotherapy will lose their hair because those cells will die. They will lose weight and other side effects, which I talk about in the book. You do,
yes. You know, you mentioned something very interesting a moment ago. You said when you're told you have cancer, the first thing you think is you're going to die. Did you think you were going to die?
And I wish, you know, Jeff, I really wish someone told me I had cancer. But no one ever said those words. They said, you have lymphoma. Well, what is lymphoma? What am I supposed to do? So what I did, I took my phone, I Googled lymphoma, and I saw, okay, it's a type of cancer. Well, why didn't you tell me? So all along, I'm thinking, okay, there's a disease that we treat with chemotherapy, but I know chemotherapy is for cancer, so I should have some form of cancer. Throughout my whole treatment, I never accepted that I had cancer. To me, it was just a disease. Lymphoma was a disease, and I was trying to get through it. I didn't have time to process what cancer was or what it really meant for me at the time.
Well, your mother in the waiting room or outside the OR at that time, what was she thinking? What were they telling her?
Now, if anyone really believed I had cancer or really accepted it, it was my mother, because I remember one day looking at her. I just came from surgery, and she looked like she'd seen a ghost. But I was the ghost, so I was wondering, okay, is there something wrong with me that I don't know? But looking at her face, I saw, okay, this is serious. This must be the cancer that everyone talks about, the death sentence, and so on and so forth. So, but seeing it from my family members, from my friends, that only confirmed my fear that, yes, this is a very bad disease and I could die in the process.
And you're an only child.
And I'm an only child, which makes it even worse. Yes.
She must have been devastated.
She was.
Do you all have, because they say with cancer, it could be a family history.
Yeah.
Do you have a family history of?
No family history of cancer. In fact, Jeff, my lifestyle before cancer was, I would say it was almost optimal. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I lived a healthy lifestyle, I ate good food, I was always exercising. So for me to be a cancer patient was like, but why me?
Why
really?
me?
That's the question.
Why me?
Yeah.
You must have been pissed off.
I was pissed off. I was angry. I was like, how can it be me? And I know plenty of people who are destroying their life every day, and why don't they have cancer? But they don't.
Yeah. And their bodies, they're destroying their bodies.
Yeah.
So, what was going through your mind all this time? Did you think, you know what, now I have cancer, once you finally found out, what next?
The next step was telling everyone. Now that was the most important thing for me, because once it finally dawned on me, and for a patient it takes you a while, because first of all, you have all these opioids and morphine that you're on, which are basically high for a long time. You can't really process things, you're not really thinking properly. So finally, after weeks, and you finally come back to yourself, I was like, okay, now I have to tell everyone. I'm in trouble.
Okay, hold that thought.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do not want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple of, like the woman who came for chemo. A lot of people do not want to tell anybody that they have the big C. Who thought otherwise? You decided otherwise.
Yes.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break.
Okay.
Come back and talk some more.
All right.